There's a type of month that doesn't arrive with fanfare. It doesn't send a warning. It doesn't ask permission. It settles in from below like a tree root that moves a stone without making a sound, until one day you look at your own life and realize that something is different, but you can't pinpoint exactly when it changed. April was exactly that kind of month for Libra. April wasn't a month of major declared ruptures. It wasn't a month of definitive announcements or shifts that everyone noticed from afar. On the surface, April seemed ordinary. Just another cycle, a few more weeks passing, more situations that came and went without leaving an obvious trace. But you know, even if you haven't yet found the exact words, that something has shifted beneath it all. There's a restlessness that hasn't completely gone away. A feeling that the center of gravity of your life is discreetly in a different place than where it was when April began. What's peculiar about Libra, and it's rarely said with this precision, is that the sign that most perceives transformation is almost always the last to declare that it has happened. Not out of denial, not out of naivete. It's something more subtle. Libra has a specific fidelity to the process, an almost instinctive need to let things settle, calibrate, find their own weight before allowing itself to call them by name, as if naming them too early would betray the depth of what is happening. It's a way of honoring what has been experienced, but it is also sometimes the most elegant way to postpone recognition. And while Libra calibrates and waits, destiny operates, silently, behind the scenes, moving pieces that the sign hasn't yet called pieces, opening doors that Libra hasn't yet identified as doors. Think about this for a moment. There's a fundamental difference between a change that hasn't yet arrived and a change that has arrived but hasn't yet been recognized. Most people confuse the two all the time. They keep waiting for the moment that, without realizing it, has already passed. It's already arrived. It's already begun to rearrange the rooms inside, to move furniture, to change the angle of the light. And Libra, being exactly as it is, patient, careful, always attentive to the weight of the surrounding environment, may have been so busy balancing what belongs to others that it missed the precise moment when its own scale finally tipped. This is not a flaw. It is Libra's oldest pattern, and it is the pattern that these last days of April are about to interrupt. Not violently, not dramatically, but with a clarity that only arrives when the right time finally sets in. It's no accident that you're here now. It's no coincidence that this particular week, this end of April transition, activates in Libra a level of perception that the entire month has been preparing, layer by layer, without announcement. Like someone who spends weeks tuning an instrument and only now, almost on the last day, finally hears the exact note they were looking for. What destiny has hidden from you in these last days of April is not in the future. It's not waiting to happen. It's already here. It's already working in your life. It has already moved what needed to be moved. The only question that will define what you do with it, the real question, the one that matters, is whether you will recognize it before the month ends, because there is a window, and it was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose. I needed to understand why Libra feels so much and names so little. Why the sign most sensitive to its surroundings is also the one that takes the longest to receive what already belongs to it. And what this book offered wasn't a list of predictions or generic statements. It was a way to understand Libra's internal mechanics, this need to calibrate, to wait, to balance before declaring, and how to transform this, when conscious, into an active force instead of a barrier operating in the dark. Like a mental posture of someone who stops seeking perfect balance outside and begins to recognize what has already been balanced within. You are now at the precise point where this book makes sense, still with the open question, still with that unnamed April restlessness. This is the state in which a tool like this truly transforms, not when you've already discovered everything, but when you're exactly on the threshold between recognizing what has arrived and letting it pass once again. The link is in the first pinned comment, but be aware this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And tell me in the comments, is there something that happened in April that you still can't name? Something that lingered like a strange weight, or like a lightness you don't know where it came from? Write it below, because there's a mechanism in Libra that almost no one stops to examine carefully enough. Not what appears in general descriptions of the sign, not the diplomacy, not the taste for harmony, not the famous indecisiveness that has become a cliché for those who don't truly understand the sign. There's a deeper structure, a specific way in which Libra processes time, change, and its own destiny. And understanding this structure is what changes Libra's relationship with itself. The scales, the symbol of the sign, are always presented as something static, two plates in perfect balance, motionless, symmetrical, like a frozen photograph of a moment that rarely truly exists. But anyone who has ever seen a real scale in operation knows that it never works like that. It oscillates, it goes to one side, then to the other. It tests every gram of weight with almost absurd sensitivity, and it finds balance in movement, not in paralysis. Balance is not the absence of oscillation. It is the point where the oscillation finds itself after sensing everything. And that's exactly how Libra operates internally. Oscillating, weighing, moving between the plates without settling on either one. Because settling means ceasing to feel, and Libra doesn't stop feeling, even when it would like to, even when being more rigid would seem simpler. But there's a side effect to this mechanism that Libra rarely notices. While the scales oscillate, the point of equilibrium may have been reached and surpassed without anyone declaring its arrival, without any bell ringing, without any formal moment of recognition, and Libra continues to oscillate, seeking a balance that was already there, a few millimeters behind, present, just waiting to be seen. This is what happened in April. The scale tipped, silently. It reached a point that Libra hasn't yet named. Not because the point doesn't exist, but because Libra is still waiting for the feeling of arrival that more often than not doesn't come with fanfare. It comes as a gentle settling, an almost imperceptible relief, a stillness that you mistook for absence when it was in fact presence. And here's the question that hangs in the air. If equilibrium has already been reached, what exactly is waiting to be recognized now? This oscillation that Libra carries, this constant search for the exact point, is not weakness. It is a sensitivity that, when consciously directed inward, reveals what most people never manage to access about themselves. But it needs direction. And that is exactly what the divine path that guides your zodiac sign towards a life of purpose offers Libra at this moment. Not the ready-made answer, but the mirror clear enough to see where the scale has already stopped, where balance has already been achieved, where destiny has already worked and is just waiting for your recognition. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. And here is Libra's most beautiful and most unsettling paradox at the same time. The sign that most feels the need for balance is also the one that most easily finds balance for others before finding it for itself. This is no accident. It's not just generosity, although Libra is genuinely generous. It's something more structural. When Libra balances someone's environment, there's a sense of order that is real and immediate. The result is visible. The environment responds. Harmony happens in real time, and Libra can observe and feel the effect immediately. But in a balance, that which pertains to one's own desires, direction, and destiny doesn't respond with the same speed. It's more opaque, slower, more difficult to calibrate because the instruments Libra uses to measure others don't function the same way when turned inward. And Libra, which operates with precision when the result is perceptible, tends to avoid, not consciously but in practice, processes that take longer to reveal their purpose. Imagine an architect designing magnificent houses for everyone around them, every detail carefully considered, every space calculated so that the people who live there feel exactly where they need to be. And then when you get home at the end of the day, you're faced with your own unfinished project. Walls without plaster, rooms without a defined function. Not because the architect doesn't know what to do, they know better than anyone, but because other projects always seem more urgent, more concrete, more immediate. Libra does this with its own destiny, with almost artistic precision and completely unconsciously. And April was the month in which this internal architecture, incomplete on the surface but far more advanced than Libra imagines, began to demand attention in a different way. Not with hysterical urgency, with a gentle, constant insistence, like when someone taps you on the shoulder with the same finger, in the same spot several times, until you finally stop what you're doing and turn around. The last days of April are that clearest beat. What destiny has hidden here is not something new that will arrive from the outside and announce itself clearly. It is a recognition that needs to come from within, from Libra's ability to stop building for others long enough to look at its own construction and realize this is more complete than I thought. This already has a foundation, this is already mine. And the clearest sign that this perception is shifting, the sign you probably received in April and still haven't been able to name, is that questions about what you want have become more frequent, more insistent, more difficult to dismiss with a simple later, because someone inside knows that later has a deadline. And this is where what is perhaps the most uncomfortable thing to hear today comes in. The signs that fate left for Libra in these last days of April, they've already arrived, not as a vision or a message with a neon sign. They arrived as smaller events that you probably didn't call signs. A conversation that lingered longer than it should have, days after it ended. A coincidence that you dismissed at the time but that returned more than once, as if asking to be seen again. A feeling upon waking that didn't correspond to any specific concern, just a lightness or a heaviness without a clear origin. A thought about something you want, not need you want, that appeared in the middle of another completely different thought. These are the crumbs. Each one seems insignificant. Each one alone is easily dismissed. But Libra knows, and perhaps is only now at this moment beginning to put the pieces together, that they form a direction. Not a destiny imposed by some external force, a direction that you yourself have been creating silently throughout the entire month of April, without realizing you were creating it, without authorizing yourself that this was a real project. What destiny hid wasn't locked away. It was between the lines of what you lived, between the signs you received and called coincidence, between the desires you felt and filed away with a careful "it's not the right time yet," between the conversations you started mentally and never finished aloud. There comes a point when "it's not the right time yet" simply becomes "it wasn't," not dramatically, silently, like a month that passed too quietly, without you realizing that the window closed until you tried to open it and encountered resistance where there was once a passage. These last few days of April are a window that's still open. The crumbs Libra carries from April are not aimless coincidences. They are information, and translating this information, transforming the scattered signs into a comprehensible path, is what the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose does so specifically for Libra. Not like a ready-made map you follow mindlessly. Not like a lantern illuminating what you've already perceived but haven't yet organized. Libra's destiny isn't written somewhere you need to find. It lies in the ability to gather what you already feel and give it a form you can use now. This book is that form. And the moment is while the crumbs of April are still warm. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. But there is one movement that Libra avoids, almost systematically. And naming that movement is what transforms these last days of April into something that goes beyond the end of a month. To receive, not giving, not balancing, not organizing the space so that others feel comfortable, not calibrating the environment so that harmony happens around you. Receiving, letting what was prepared for you arrive without you needing to manage its arrival, without checking if it's the right time, without checking if the quantity is fair, without calculating if others around you will understand or approve. Libra has a complicated relationship with receiving without editing, because truly receiving requires a kind of letting go, not of complete control, but of control over what enters and how. And Libra, even though perceived from the outside as malleable and adaptable, has very precise control over its own emotional environment, over what it lets in, over the pace at which things settle in, over who has access to what and in what dose. And destiny, what remained hidden in April, demands a kind of openness that goes against this control. Not violently, in a gentle and inevitable way, like when someone places something good in your hand and the first impulse, even before reasoning begins, is to check if you deserve it before closing your fingers. Libra deserves what comes, not as a reward based on some external standard of merit, as a natural result of everything that was built in silence, calibrated without an audience, balanced without recognition from anyone but yourself, and sometimes not even from yourself. What these last days of April deliver is a real opening, a window through which what has been prepared for Libra can finally be received if Libra is willing to stop checking and simply open its hand. This movement changes everything that comes after, not as a metaphor, in practice, in the way the next month will unfold, in the quality of what you can hold on to when you stop managing its arrival and start simply being present for it. Receiving what destiny has prepared requires you to know what's coming, not from the outside, but from within. It requires clarity about what Libra truly needs to open that hand without the need for constant verification. And that's exactly the work that the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose does uniquely for this sign. Not what you should want according to some external expectation. What Libra, with all its calibrated sensitivity, already feels is right and hasn't yet allowed itself to receive. This book is the authorization that doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. And then the end of April arrives, not as the end of something, as the beginning of something else. As the moment when one season delivers what it has silently cultivated so that the next can begin with the soil prepared, fertile, ready to receive what is to come. What destiny hid from you in these last days of April wasn't a surprise kept somewhere waiting for the right moment to appear. It was a reflection, an image of what Libra became without realizing it. During this month, during the months that came before, while calibrating, balancing, waiting, weighing, organizing the environment around it, and in the cracks of all that, growing in a way that is only now becoming visible. The scale wasn't stopped, it was working, silently, with a precision that only those who operate it from the inside can truly understand. And what arrives now, what these last few days reveal, if you take enough time to receive without managing, is the result of that work, not an external trophy that someone will ceremoniously hand over. A level of inner clarity that Libra rarely allows itself to feel without someone from the outside validating it. The clarity of knowing, quietly, without needing to prove it to anyone, that the point of equilibrium has been found, that something within you has settled, that what comes next has a foundation. There is a specific beauty in Libra that doesn't appear in quick summaries of the sign. It's the ability to hold two opposites at the same time without either exploding, to live in the tension between what is and what could be without collapsing in between, to find harmony, not because the chaos has ceased, but because presence was enough to transform the chaos into something that makes sense. This is not indecision. It never was. It's a form of intelligence that the hurried world insists on confusing with a lack of direction, but which in Libra is the source of every decision that truly matters, of every love that was real, of every choice that remained when everything around changed. April calibrated this intelligence in a quiet way, and you'll continue to discover it in the coming weeks. What destiny had hidden for you wasn't behind a locked door waiting for a special key. It was under a light that had always been on. You just needed to stop going in circles long enough to realize that the light wasn't illuminating an external path. The light was you, and now you realize